Well, welcome everybody to another Montessori Lives, conversations with notable Montessorians. Speaking of which, this evening we're blessed to have with us Raji Sivapalan, um, and a legend. And um, she was she was uh, she received the Quiet Achiever Award at the Living Legend Gala event in 2023, and she is a legend at Montessori East in Bondi. I'd like to have you tell the story about how you got there and how long you've been there that you were telling me before we started.
Yes, so I trained in Sri Lanka, 3 to 6, at the Good Shepherd Montessori AMI Center, and I came to Australia in 1987, and I got the job as a Cycle 1 teacher in Vaucluse. So it was one classroom there, and that's how my journey started. And then after 10 years, the children were not leaving the school. They were all staying, some miracle. So like magical rooms. So I looked into the primary, to set up a primary. And then Michaela Q, one of primary teacher, was available. So with just 6 children, we had a little basement and we started the primary. And it just grew. And then they moved to Bronte. Then we had three campus like Vaucluse, Randwick, and Bronte, so we could manage. Then we found a nice premise in Bondi. That's where we are now currently. And then we moved all the classrooms there, and it just grew. And now we are like 140 children altogether. We also have an under 3 parent child program, so that's also in our same premises. So yeah, it's just flourished from there.
So how many years have you been teaching and been at Montessori East?
So when I came, I was the preschool teacher. Then I did my 6 to 12 training. We were the first Sydney cohort to do the 6 to 12 here under Jean Miller. And then I taught Cycle 2. Then I did the under 3 program and started the kin program. And then just before COVID, I handed over that to Tia because our principal, Bill Conway, retired. So I thought I was needed in the bigger school. And then since then, I have been just mentoring and just keeping the school together as the educational leader. And now that I don't want to retire. That's a dirty word for me. So just slowing down, and I don't want any more responsibility, but I'm happy to be around children and adults and help wherever I can. So so I gave up all my responsibilities. At the moment, I'm just the educational leader for the preschool, and just 2 days a week. It's perfect. I've got grandchildren at home, so I have a good balance um, with family and work. And yeah, it's a very happy place.
So it's going on 40 years, right? 38 years?
38, yes.
Wow. So what keeps you going? What keeps you fresh and not wanting to retire?
So I'm always like looking for challenges. So and I know when the time comes, oh, okay, I need to find something. Or I need something more, and always looking around the school like what was needed. So the primary was needed, so I was able to set that up, and then the under 3 was needed, so I set that up. So whenever when like being like an innovator kind of like new things and new ideas and new challenges, and then I just take that upon myself as a project, and that keeps me going.
Mm.
um,
So keeping the mind challenged
yeah, yeah, very much.
keeps you young.
Yes, yeah.
See, Fern, it's not the creams, it's
Yeah.
the mind.
And also learning new things, it's not like you must never say you're finished, you're always learning new ideas, new things, and I mean, children have not changed, but the world has changed.
Mm.
So we need to adapt to that. And so that's a bit exciting, actually,
So
to
you really
that.
embody that Montessori ideal of the lifelong learner.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah. So that's interesting that you say the changes in modern society uh it keeps it exciting and interesting. Like a lot of people would kind of wring their hands and pull their hair out at the changes, the screens and the lack of nature play and two parents working and the changes in nutrition and the all of that, those changes keep children more ramped up than they used to be back in Maria's day, I guess, where
Mhm.
they were at a calmer level. And so it was probably, I imagine, easier to get them concentrating back in those days. Whereas now children find it hard with their shorter attention spans and their great higher level of anxiety. How do you think Montessori can adapt to that new reality in children?
I think the what I love about Montessori is that always looking at the child, child's needs. The child is always at the center of the curriculum, I would say. So always at this moment, what does this child need? Without judging what was going around the child, and being able to adapt to that need and give what the child needs at that moment really helps that child without thinking too much around, because there is with especially the food, with the food, it's really affecting all our children because it's not the food that we ate 50 years ago. So there's environment pollution, there's stress from the food they eat, the lifestyle, and then bringing the parents also close to you to help the families, to help the child. So that, I think, that is the key. Whatever is
Mm,
happening to the child, we need to work with the families. You can't work in isolation. That will never work. And educating the parents, or supporting, holding their hands and bringing them along with the journey. That's what will help the
mm.
child. Yeah.
What do you find the foods that most affect children's behavior? Like there's sugar, there's seed oils, there's lots of artificial preservatives and so on. What have you found to be the important things to encourage parents to avoid, and how do you how do you get parents to change the diets? I mean, it's so hard to change diets of children, right? Because it's a habit. And also, parents seem to see food choices as, an expression of love. So, we make children, parents often make meals for children as an expression of love. So, asking a parent to change their diet of their child sometimes is interpreted by the parent as um you getting in the way between their love for the child. um what do you think about that?
So we encourage children at school. Every classroom has a little garden. So growing your own food and cooking and eating
Mm,
and teaching the child the importance of that, and that sort of carries on to the family,
mm,
and just having conversations. And then we also have we call it a green grads food co-op. So we order organic fruit and vegetables from the farmer, straight from the farmer. And then we have about 20-25 families who buy them. So again, teaching the children the benefit of buying direct from the farmer. You need to know where your food is coming from, and embedding all that into the curriculum. So how to live and eating is a big part. So cooking is a big part of our curriculum, and teaching them, and then that goes into the family, and then the parents sort of learn with the child.
Mm.
So that's the
The
only way
modeling,
to get them to,
say, yeah, modeling it at school then
yeah,
flows home,
yeah,
flows into food habits at home.
yeah. It's like the recycling because we teach them at school. They go home and they say, "Oh, mom, we can't throw this in this bin." So, and the parents get educated through the child. Yeah.
What have been some of the most notable challenges that you've had as a Montessori educator?
Um, I wouldn't call it a challenge. I always love challenges, so trying to find the answers. So it's not a negative thing for me. Um, I don't know, like a challenge. The families at our school are pretty good, like they are, they understand, they come for all the talks, they want to learn, they want to do the right thing. So we don't have any challenges that way. But as a school, my challenge would be we don't own our school. We don't have a piece of land to call ours. So that has been the biggest challenge. We have been trying to buy a piece of land. So the fees go up because our rent is very high in the eastern suburbs. So
Mm.
that's the biggest challenge for me. We are still trying to find some premises because the church can ask us to leave anytime.
Mm.
We've got another 10-year lease. So that would be the biggest challenge for us,
Yeah.
owning a piece of land.
Are there things that you've struggled with in your early years as a Montessori educator that you've learned to overcome, but things that were very challenging in the beginning?
Oh, definitely, communication with parents, everything, like you had to teach yourself. We had a very good network at that time. Every term, all the New South Wales schools would meet. So I had like mentors and colleagues, so we could, get help from each other. Main thing is the communication and bringing the parents with you in the journey. So trying to not educate, but sort of remind them why they chose Montessori
Mm.
and to take them with you. So for me, if the philosophy is not practiced at home, it's a waste of money for the child. So to bring them along with you would have been the challenge at that time. But once we built up the community, after that it was much easier to build on that. Uh,
Mm.
People coming for the right reason.
And that's one of your roles at Montessori East now,
Yes,
right? As parent
definitely.
liaison.
Yeah, yeah. I've always thrived on that. I love working with the families. And
Yeah.
we lost our way a bit after COVID.
Mm.
Most of, not most, some of our families left the school, they went overseas or interstate. And then we had to just take families just to balance financially.
Mm.
But that really showed parents coming, leaving at any time they want to, not staying for the full 9 years. So I think finally we have sort of steadied the ship now.
Mm.
And that's one of my role to get people who really understand, who are on the same page.
Mm.
They're coming for the right reason to the school, so they stay for the 9 years.
Yeah, often for schools, that seems to be one of the biggest challenges is to get parents to come along to parent education and to join the community and to understand why Montessori. But it sounds like you've really figured that out. How do you get, like often it's the same parents, the same core group of parents who will come to those talks but not the ones who don't who need it the most, perhaps. How do you get those parents who need it more than the core group to actually come to those events?
So we stand at the gate and we sort of check to every family when they come through the gate whether they're coming or not. We offer babysitting, because that's the biggest challenge for families, the timing. So, and then we also offer supper. So those three things have really made a big change for us. We get around 40. That's our average for when we offer. Yeah.
That's great. Um, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges that are faced by education in general at the moment? Like you've been doing this almost 40 years. How has education in general, not just Montessori, but education in general changed in the time that you've been working? And what do you see as the biggest challenges now?
So actually, it's funny that you asked that question because some of the NESA curriculums have not changed for decades. It's the same curriculum they offer, but only now they are trying to change and reform the curriculum. Yeah, no one is looking at the child. No one is looking what the child needs, and it's just coming from top down. That's a very big challenge. But I know there are schools that are starting and they're offering different approach. And when you actually go and read their vision and mission, it's Montessori philosophy, and people are realizing that we need to give this freedom to the child and respect the child and really honor this child, and the child knows what they need to learn, without bringing it top down. I don't know whether you heard in New South Wales there's a school called Learning Village in Linfield. It's a government public school from maybe year K to year 12, and they call it Learning Village, but practically they're doing Montessori, so there's no grades, no exam. They work in hubs, but they can't sustain because they don't have teachers to continue that work. So the government was going to roll out a few schools to it was like a prototype, but nothing has happened in any other place.
Mm.
So there are people who want to change, but you don't have the freedom to do that. Yeah.
Why do you think they are not able to find teachers for the Learning Village?
Because they don't. The training is still the same in the university,
Mm.
so that has not changed. So all the graduates are coming with the same training, but at the Learning Village, they are teaching in a different approach.
Yeah.
So they'll have to, it has to change somewhere.
Yeah.
And I know, like in South Australia, there's a beautiful school. I forget the name, an Aboriginal name. And this man got frustrated and he started the school again. Basically, it's, their approach is Montessori core principles. And what makes me sad sometimes is Montessori schools are trying to satisfy the government, but the other schools are going away and bringing the Montessori philosophy.
Mm.
So we have to be more, if we do it authentically, it really works. But we can't be afraid of NESA and trying to change the way we teach. But our approach has to be the foundation, and then it will work.
Yeah. As you know, one of the big problems for Montessori schools is also finding trained teachers.
Yeah.
Why do you think, it's so difficult to get trained teachers in this country?
One thing, you have to do your degree, and then you on top of that you need the Montessori training, so that's a real challenge. It's a real obstacle. So if a university can give them that degree, that would make it really easier for them. And the second one is we have to go out there and recruit from universities. Like um, we have people coming to do prac teaching from unis, but it has to be more often, and then they fall in love with the classroom, and we have sent them for training that way.
Mm.
And currently, we have such a shortage as well. So we advertised and got a girl from Ireland, but she just had the basic teaching degree. But when we took her, we knew she was a good candidate, so we kept her in the class. I kind of, mentored her, and now she's doing the training. So we had to find another way to get teachers. Not when we advertise, we rarely get anyone nowadays. We put an ad recently.
Mm.
We didn't get even one application.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think Montessori training is part of the reason for that, that it's too stuck in the past, that it needs to be updated in some ways to match the needs of adult learners today?
Yes, yes, that's part of it. And also, it's very expensive.
Mm.
So unless they go through a school, somebody sponsoring them, I don't think individuals can afford to pay for themselves. So that's the other one. Um, yes, we need to change with the current approach. Just for example, we should be looking at AI. We can't ignore what is happening in the other outside Montessori. So the
Mm.
question to ask is, what does this child in front of us actually need at
Mm.
this time and place? So the training also has to change according to that.
Mm. What role would you see for AI in Montessori?
We have to talk about it with the children. We can't just shut it down. And children, we have to give access to children to see what AI is, what is it doing, and have conversation. um, it's like the computers. We don't like screen, but we also have to teach them it's a tool, how to use, how to access, um, but in a guided way. So same way, the children are so clever nowadays,
Mm.
more than us, right?
Yeah.
The older children. So and how to use AI in a positive way, even for teachers. um, like I use to help me when I do lesson plans or assessment or observation. It guides you, but you don't depend on it.
Yeah.
So children need to understand how to use it in the best way, um,
Mm.
rather than shut it down. No, no, we don't like all these kind of things.
Wow, that's so great to hear you talk about AI like that. I mean, I think a lot of veteran Montessorians are a bit afraid of technology, but as you know, Maria was all over technology and she was advocating 16 millimeter film back in the 1920s and 30s when it was a brand new technology. So I've got to believe that she would be all over AI and she would have her iPhone and um, be interested in using computers
Yeah.
in the classroom.
We have two teachers in our 9 to 12 classrooms. They are both young, but it's amazing how they think outside the box. And again, asking that question, what do our children need right at this moment? And for the last 6 months, they have been doing. They're going to have a film show in this term. So the
Mm.
children have got into groups as a project, and they're all going to showcase their own little short film. So we
Mm.
bring in outsiders to help them, to teach them different ways they can film. And then it's going to coincide with the National Films Week or something. So it'll be in week 6. Yeah, so
Wow.
we do things like that. So, just looking outside. But you can still tick all the boxes for Nessa. And that's the smart thing to do. Anything you want to do with the children like this, you should also know that it's satisfying all the outcomes more than what they want.
Yeah.
Once you know that, you should be able to just go out there and do what
Yeah.
children need at this time and age.
Well, being able to create a video, I think, is the new literacy.
Yep.
It's no longer just being able to read and write. It's being able to make a video very quickly and edit it on your phone.
Yes.
That's the new literacy for the 21st century.
Mm.
What do you think is the secret of the transformation of the teacher in Montessori training? How do we help people see past their own egos and actually see what the needs of the child is?
Yeah. I would love to share something of my own training. So I was trained in 1976. I can't even remember now, in Sri Lanka. So the first year we had just lectures the whole every day, a full year, and a bit of practical. Then end of the first year we had to sit for the exam, and only if you pass you could go into the second year of your training. And the second year we have to go and teach in a school in the morning as a trainee, and then we in the afternoon we come back to the training center for our lectures. And then we had another test and practical, then you pass. We were given a certificate, but the certificate was not completed. There was at the bottom, there were more things to be signed off. Then we have to work for 2 full years under a trained teacher. And then at the end of the second year, our certificate was sent back to Holland, and then it was endorsed. And then it said, now you're a fully trained Montessori teacher. So for me, that was really humbling to, okay, I've done this training, I've got my certificate, but I'm still not ready. And to work under another teacher and learn all the tricks of the trade, and to know, like to make mistakes and being mentored, I think that was the best gift I ever got as a Montessori teacher. And but we don't have that system in other countries. I haven't heard another country who has that system, and I'm not sure whether they still have that in Sri Lanka. But that was a very good humbling experience for all who who came from Sri
Mm,
Lanka. But in Australia, we don't hear that, and even very hard to find mentors. And
mm,
then some adults come with that ego, knowing I don't need a mentor. So that's a
mm,
very dangerous um, thing for a new teacher. So to be humble to know that I'm still in this path, and I need a mentor. So that will be my message. If you're a new
mm,
teacher, you're starting, you need to get either one mentor or few mentors. You can have more than one mentor, and to know that you're still on this path, and to have conversations are really important. That as staff in schools, we are always so busy going about. Take a moment once a week for an hour, you just sit and you have a chat, and then so many things come out of those chats.
mm. What you described is it sounds like preparation for medicine or law, which
Mm.
are very much apprenticeships, right? So you first you learn the information, and then you go into a relationship with a mentor and you practice and then get feedback on that practice.
Yeah.
And teaching is, we're really operating on the minds of, well, not directly, but we're operating on the environment, which allows the child to learn through interaction. But it requires the same kind of subtle understanding of your profession that lawyers and doctors would have, but we don't seem to want to give it as a society the same importance, raising children, educating children, that we do um, doctors and lawyers. Yeah. How widespread is Montessori in Sri Lanka?
Um, there's only one training center, but unfortunately, there are other people who train like for 3 months and 6 months just for employment. So I think, I'm not sure because I have not been to Sri Lanka for some time. Um, when someone says my child is going to a preschool, they always say my child is going to Montessori.
Yeah.
That's like a common word, you know. And same thing in India, especially South India. It's quite widespread, yeah. But they don't have the primary or high school, but the preschools are generally um,
Yeah.
quite widespread, yeah.
So, would you have any advice to give a young, inexperienced educator, a teacher just going into the classroom now?
Definitely get a mentor or a few mentors, meet with them monthly or, you know, whenever you can.
Mm,
Um, be humble, be a scientist and a saint, you know, like they are the core things Montessori, um, um, like the foundation for you to become to transform yourself, I suppose. And then observation. I never see that
mm,
really done nowadays. People are so busy. Without observation is like the oxygen. If
mm,
you don't observe, reflect, and discuss, then talk about it, you know, it's otherwise it's just another classroom.
mm,
So not to take that away, that observation skill, something they have to take it with them and get a mentor definitely and have a growth mindset. I don't know how you grow that, but having a growth mindset.
yeah. The educators at Montessori East are so lucky to have you as their mentor at the school there. How do you manage your work-life balance to keep to to make your career so sustainable?
Yeah, I don't think of my work as a job or anything. It's just part of my life.
Mm,
Um, as you know, if you have been with the school for so long, so I only work 2 days a week. So it's full on when I'm at the school. I'm on the ground. But the other days, I'm kind of available. You know, people can reach out to me if there's something happening or they need to talk to me.
mm,
Um, but that's a good balance. You know, 2 days and the rest at home. I love my gardening. I've got my grandchildren. So yeah, it's a beautiful balance. And I also stay in Bondi one night. It's like a holiday every week for me. And also teaching all the other staff about self care. That's another big area for me, even for parents and the teachers, um, to take care of themselves because
mm.
that's very important when you have a job where you give all the time.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be that in Montessori, at least when I was teaching, uh, started teaching, it was all on, full on all the time. So it was a very much a 7 days a week
Yeah.
job. Was it like that for you in the beginning as well? Teaching every day, then making materials at night, and practicing on the weekend and all of that. How
Yeah,
did
we
you?
didn't have emails then, no phones and
Right,
no emails.
right.
So I had to go home and then make the calls after I make the dinner. But we still did all our observation. We wrote everything. We didn't have computers. We didn't have all the transparent classroom, but we still did our work. Um, and yeah, so I think if you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't feel like
Mm,
work or job. Like um, you're making a difference. So this is your calling.
yeah.
It's not
So
a
was
8 to 4
was
job.
Montessori your calling, your career, your hobby?
Yeah,
Or did you have another interest as well as Montessori that also gave you, you know, some variation?
yeah. Gardening is my other one. So
Gardening.
I get to do gardening with all the children. Um, and then I can teach botany through that. So yeah, I have various other, I love dancing and singing and
Mm,
um, well-being is also, I love to help other people to take care of themselves. So, and I'm lucky because the school has given me the freedom to be or to do all these things.
mm,
That's the other one, where the teachers have that freedom in other schools when you have ideas and um,
mm.
passion, you bring that into your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've talked a bit about busyness being one of the challenges in education. Are there other big challenges faced by Montessori education specifically at the moment that you see?
Um, yeah, I think the challenge is not being authentic
Mm,
because once you start to change a bit here and change a bit there, you're neither Montessori nor the other system. So being true to Montessori, but you can bring other things to enhance, but not to replace.
mm.
So you have to be very careful how you do that.
So how do you know if you're being authentic in Montessori? Because you
But
talked earlier about the importance of adapting to the new realities, the modern world, and using AI, for example. So, how do you know if you're being authentic or if you're replacing some important element of Montessori with something that's foreign?
so authentic is being the child is at the center. It's all about the child. That's something Montessori said. Look at the child.
Yeah.
So that is a real core principle. Then the multi-age classrooms. So once you go to meddle with those kind of things, then it doesn't work. The leadership, the mentoring within the classroom,
Yeah.
children teaching each other, learning from each other. So that's the other one. Um, the next one is, the teachers being scientists, using your classroom as a lab. So it's
Yeah.
always experimenting. There's no right or wrong. And that's what Montessori did. She would bring things into the classroom. If it didn't work, she'll just chuck it out.
Mm,
So following that, what would she do if she lived among us at this moment, if you
mm,
believed in her ways? So more than what the core things, you can't go away from that.
mm,
Um, bringing that love of learning or and the freedom and limits. That's another big one. Not too much freedom, not too much strictness. How do you balance it? Such a delicate dance. Freedom, limits, and the consequence. So
mm,
that's another core principle, I would say. So
mm,
not to go away from those kind of things.
mm,
And if the child is at the center and you're working and you're always looking to satisfy the child's needs at that moment, you can't. That's authentic for me.
mm.
Yeah.
Raji, you're so clear in your thinking about Montessori. It's very humbling to listen to you. No beating around the bush. You just go straight to the heart of the matter. Why do you think Montessori is not more widespread at this point in Australia? It's been what 112 years now since Blackfriars in Sydney opened the first public Montessori school, one of the earliest in the world. We've had that long, but yet we still serve only 12 hundredths of 1% of children in Australia. We only have 50 schools, Montessori schools in Australia, out of almost 10,000 nationwide. Why is that, do you think?
I think we should have. been in the public school system. That's another regret for me. I tried a few times and it didn't work. So the public school should have it as a choice, I feel. But because we are expensive, it becomes like another elite school. If people don't know, they don't look into it, they wouldn't know who we are. Maybe we are not out there promoting. Um, and again, everything comes as research based. We are not doing enough research to be out there and say, whatever we are doing is research based.
Mm.
And that's how people are selling things at the moment. Any
Yeah.
program that comes research based, but we are not doing much research. So that's another way to get out there to show that it really works.
Yeah.
It's an unknown to convince parents, even the parents who are there in your
Mm.
school, to tell them they'll be okay in high school. What's the trust?
Mm.
It's an unknown thing for them. But once something is research based, then if you can prove with data, and then the parents sort of buy
Do
in.
you, but do you think parents really respond to research? Like you can find research to prove pretty much anything. You could find research, I'm sure, to prove that the Earth is flat. Um, uh, do you think it's that there has never been the story told about Maria's life and her vision for education in a big way? So there's never really been a big Hollywood blockbuster movie about Maria Montessori. We have all these small indie movies, right, and documentaries, but there's never been a big movie that's captured the attention of the majority of the world, starring Meryl Streep or somebody like that as Maria Montessori, who really captures the passion of Montessori and the idea of her child-centered education. Why do you like that always but mine is my I find mind-boggling that there's never been that big blockbuster movie because you could not invent a better script for a Hollywood movie than her real life, right? All of the drama and intrigue and um, suspense and the fighting against societal norms and her son getting taken from her and then reunited. There's so much there. Why have we never had a movie about her life?
I have no idea. Maybe you should start one, Mark. Maybe, one of our children one day would. Who knows? Who had been touched by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because, when parents are like high achievers and they've all gone to these prestige high private schools,
Mm.
and they are the ones who always question the academic side, and they are the ones who are always wanting
Yeah.
data or research. So what we do is every year we bring all our graduates back for a talk, like a
Mhm.
panel, and that's like the highest attendance
Mm.
all the time. So we try and bring from year seven to even children who are in the workforce. So we try and bring them back so they can hear. So that has been our way of attracting or retaining
Yeah.
families.
Some people say that we need a different term for Montessori education, that when we use the word Montessori and we have this image of an elderly Italian woman
Yeah,
dressed in black, who died 75 years ago
yeah,
almost, people just think, oh, obsolete, from the last century.
yeah.
Whereas if, we had this, so like for example, it's really interesting that Freudelian play-based education is more popular, more
Mm,
widespread than Montessori,
yeah.
and yet it's 100 years older than Montessori. And she took Froebel's ideas
Mm,
and improve them. And so, people take the older version of that play-based education model instead of the newer version, which is nuts, right?
Yeah.
But Freudel, I think, Freudel was quite uh, uh, an interesting face, shall we say. So, but you don't usually see Froebel's image when people talk about play-based education. They don't use the word Froebel, only occasionally, but we always refer to Montessori education as Montessori education, which brings up the image of Maria. What do you think we could term Montessori education if we didn't use the M word?
So we try not to use. We also started doing that for our advertisements or to all our documents, all our communications. We are trying to get away from that,
Mm.
and especially our under three program. They also took the Montessori away, and we call it kin. And they are also trying different ways how to bring that about. So we are just experimenting with that at the moment. So we are also trying to find different words.
Mm.
And that's why we were also thinking of saying science based or research based rather than saying Montessori. So we're actually exploring that
Mm.
path. We also realize that it's that word sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another reason that is sometimes brought up for Montessori not being more widely accepted is the divisions among the Montessori community. The apparent inability of Montessorians to get along well and to cooperate well with each other in the way that we're taught to respect children. We tend not to respect each other. And so not just in Australia, but worldwide, the Montessori community tends to be very divided and very unable to collaborate. So we don't have a world body that really promotes Montessori directly to governments or to um, or, or um, uh, funds advertising campaigns directly. We have all these different organizations, and so governments look at us and just think you can't even get on with yourselves. What, don't come and talk to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like
what?
the Catholic system. They have
Yeah.
one somebody to
Even
open.
Steiner education is more common in Australia than Montessori, and yet worldwide they have many fewer schools than Montessori. Why do you think
We
that is?
were like that, years ago. Susan will know. There was only one Montessori MAA, and then all the states came under them, and each state we worked together, and then every year all the states will meet for conferences. Um, I think at that time, would you agree, Susan? We were more united years ago.
Yes, we were united years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember exactly the vote that you made when we had to abandon New South Wales Montessori Association. And if you remember, I closed my eyes because I didn't want to see everybody vote
Yeah.
against it, because I knew that it was not heading in an inclusive direction.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you,
But we
Susan.
about what happened, but it was more exclusive. They wanted to move away from, we could have had a really great community. We had
Yeah.
a great community.
There's a grassroots level. Everybody was, united on the grassroots.
It was called Montessori, New South Wales Montessori Teachers Association.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a brand, it was just Montessori teachers. So it could have been it was embracing everybody.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I was the president when it closed the association, and I used to do newsletter for all over Australia. The newsletter would go to all the teachers in Australia. We were very much involved. at that time. I remember. Yeah.
What do you think we can do, Raji, to get back to a more unified community?
We had to sit and have a conversation, bring everybody to a round table and have a facilitator, just like what we do with the children when we have a conflict, or we have different opinions. This is our goal, how could we come together? And each one can still do what they want to do, but how can we do it in a united way?
Does anybody have something they would like to ask or comment on?
Can I say something?
So
Please,
yes,
JR.
Then you can start. I mean,
no, you carry on.
Hi, Raji. My name is JR. I started my journey when I was 24 years old, and now it's been over maybe 16 to 17 years of being in a profession. As someone who has dedicated over my life to Montessori education as both a teacher and a leader, I deeply value your wisdom. I'm really, really intrigued because you've been in this journey for, I would say, I guess 38 to 40, turning 40 in the field. And what advice would you offer me as I continue to grow in my role, support my teams, and stay true to the philosophy, and while navigating the evolving landscape of early childhood education?
Yeah, so don't get stale. Like you need to know, like when you get up in the morning, you need to be excited to go to school. There are new things waiting for you. But when you see the sign, don't shut it down. Something is trying to tell you you need something different, another direction. It could be in the same school or a different classroom, a different age group, and you can keep that alive, your passion. But sometimes you can get stuck into one place, and you might think you don't have a choice, but you always have a choice.
Mm.
And then you can expand. If you have the skills, then you reach out to other people, you start to help other people, and keep learning. Never ever stop learning. There's always something. And go back to Montessori's books. I don't go to my albums, I always go to her books. Because
I have
sometimes I tell the
I have his her
educators,
book.
throw the album out of the window.
Yeah.
Yes. Because sometimes they're stuck to the album,
Yes.
they
Yes.
can't think beyond.
Mm.
Album is a framework. It's like the EYLF. It's a
Yeah.
framework. It's a guide. We always go back when we are stuck, or when a child needs, you always go back to those lessons. But if you think that's the only way, and then that's not that Montessori didn't want that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much. That was lovely.
It's up to you to start the high school in Bondi East.
I'm in Melbourne.
Where are you?
Melbourne.
Melbourne.
In Melbourne. Okay. Okay, you can move cities. That's one of those changes in place. Or come to the Gold Coast. It's nice and warm.
Yes, maybe one day. Yeah, I'm
Going to
stuck at the
school from
moment here.
3 to year 12 here.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Raji. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, please do come to Sydney if you're thinking. Yeah.
Oh yes, please. I'll definitely come and visit your place. And yeah, currently I'm just helping the service that we're operating. We have like 5 services that we're operating at the moment. So
What
it's a
age group?
challenging role, but getting there. Like you said, be excited every single day. When I wake up, I have to feel excited all the time.
Yeah. And
Thank
keep
you.
your mind open for new experience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And JR is next on Montessori Lives in 2 weeks.
Oh, cool.
Nice. We'll see you there then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Raji, what you said reminded me, I think it was Susan was telling me at the conference on the weekend that was it you who said that Mario was asked what the greatest legacy of Maria was, and he said her books, right? Not the training program, the books. And so he was saying you always go back to the books, just like you.
And another advice is someone told me to read her books in the chronological order, because then you know how her brain changed. So sometimes when you read one of her books, you think, oh, that's what, and you get stuck in that time. But she actually progressed. So if you read it in order, you will know how her thinking also changed or evolved or whatever. You will see a difference.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
You can throw that one out. It'll keep everybody busy for the next 20 years.
Yeah. You know,
Julia was telling us last night, we had, dinner with Julia Hilson and Lucette last night. And Julia was saying that they've found a whole lot of letters between Maria and her son that have never been published or anything. They were in some archive in London or something. So they are having, and they're very, very interesting in terms of her maybe evolving, and as they talk to each other through the years, and he took over the legacy. So that would be very interesting to have out there for all of us to, and I think we need to make movies. The kids need to be making movies about the work that they do in the classroom and how different it is from traditional education. Yeah.
I've heard that there were letters between Maria and Alfred Adler, which I'd really like to see those, because I think their theories are so beautifully complementary that I really wish they'd met and got married. He would have been so much better for her than Montesano, who was a bit of a loser, apparently. I mean, imagine giving up Maria
That would have been a
Montessori.
marriage made in heaven, would it, Mark, on your book?
Well, he was an early feminist, and so I believe he would have. I mean, people often say, well, if Maria had actually gotten married to Montesano and raised Mario at home, we wouldn't have had her works, right? But I think Alfred Adler actually would have supported her in her career. And also, they're very complementary. So he focused on the deviations, what she called misbehavior, whereas she focused on the pedagogy, but really didn't get into the deviations. And he said a little bit about pedagogy, but focused mostly on so they're very complementary theories. And I think they were born in the same year, so they were the right age for each other. And only thing is he was Austrian, and I think Austrians and Italians probably, I don't know, what do you think, Alex?
No, I just read his background, Mark, and he said he didn't believe in God or in the Bible, and so there you go. She's not going to go along with that. Sorry,
true.
You can't say I do.
You can't say I do.
Yeah, he might have been a bit radical for her.
Unless he was really good looking.
Yeah. So Raji, last question. Do you think there are any areas where Montessori needs to be updated for the modern world? Is there any places, do you think, where Montessori has become a bit stale over the years and needs to be revised? Like Montessori, you just said Montessori was always improving her method, but it's been a while, right, since she passed. Are there any, and the rest of us have been a little bit, I guess, focused on, just preserving her, as if she's a mummy kind of thing. Are there ways that Montessori really needs that visionary again to bring it into the 21st century?
Yeah, like I said, if you keep the core principles, like multi-age classrooms, and you're always the child is at the center of the curriculum, That's where the secret is, and always looking at it as a science lab.
Mm.
And the materials can just, like, you have to be careful with the material. That's where everything, people are trying to hold on to the materials. But if there are some materials are never ever working, then the top AMI people have to look into it.
Mm.
But I know on the 0 to 3 level, they are making changes at the top level,
Mm.
the AMI Pedagogical Committee. So they are making changes on the 0 to 3 level. So hopefully it'll come.
So on that point, do you think that the SPG should be the one to have ultimate authority over Montessori curriculum and materials, or do you think that teachers in the classroom should be able to make decisions about what materials and curriculum they use and how it should evolve and that kind of thing? Who do you think should be really the ultimate arbiter?
It should be in partnership. They should be listening to the teachers as well. So it should be in partnership through the trainer, students, trainer, and to the top. So you can't just work in isolation. You need to listen to the people who are working with the children. And that's where the research comes, the teachers should be doing, they should be keeping
research in the classroom.
Yeah.
So if you were working, like, I mean, I used to, implement quite a lot of changes to materials based on working with different children in an under 3, and nobody was really, in the under 3, nobody was questioning that you could change the thing or use something natural or whatever. So you think there should be like a forum of when you've really seen the principles of Montessori operate and have success in the classroom, that should filter up so that the courses change based on those new discoveries. And we should be doing that at every level.
Yeah, every level, yeah.
So basically, it's like a reverse of a refresher. It's the refresher up, not the refresher down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good
So
catch.
we all sit at tables bringing new materials that we've had successes with, and it being
Or to discuss
like,
it.
and research, like it being passed to another table and saying, what do you think of this? And being passed to another table, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
And if there's enough empirical evidence that that works,
Yeah.
then
And they also have criteria, when you make material, the child should be able to repeat it over and over again. It's not a material you just do and then it's done. So there are some criteria, right?
On our training, we did that with mobiles. We all had to create a mobile based on the materials, and we had like 40 pages of different but still it's only the 3 that are sold. It's not all the ones that students created and saw what the children, like I did one with seed pods in Africa for a nephew, a grandnephew, that was, painted them white on one side and black on the other, different color seed pods. And that was the perfect, mobile for a 2-week-old. But as you say, we still keeping very traditional in what we give the students, which limits their thinking. Yeah.
Raji, it's been so refreshing, speaking of refreshers, to hear your clarity. And, you obviously have, so internalized these principles of Montessori education that it's part of you. And, whatever question you're asked, you just, revert back to core principles of Montessori. It's just it's been wonderful to talk to you. And we could go on for hours, I'm sure. So thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mark. And
Hope
thank you, everyone watching.
Hope to see you
Thank
in
you very
Sydney
much.
at the International Convention in November.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for JR's interview.